is it with your soul? It's a phrase that Wesleyans or Methodists and people who, in the Methodist tradition are familiar with. John Wesley began every small group discussion with it. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird to hear. How is it with your soul? It's a strange phrase. It's very different from the common "How are you?" Right? We hear that all the time. We show up to church. How are you? How are you? How are you? It's kind of just a passing acknowledgement. Like, I realize you're there, and we see each other. But the weird thing happens is when someone actually tells you how they are, it's awkward. Right? It's like you actually weren't asking that question. But the phrase, how is it with your soul, was meant to cut through all that stuff. It actually, how is it with your soul is asking, how are you? How are you spiritually? How is your walk with God going? It invites and it starts self-examination. Like, it asks a lot of different questions, or it begs a lot of different questions, like maybe what are things that I'm engaging in that bring my soul closer to God? What are some things that I'm doing that's maybe putting a wedge between me and God, or my God and myself? What are things that I'm doing in my life that really make my heart flourish and brightly glow in front of others? What are some things that I'm engaged in that may be draining my life or my spirituality and my walk with God? I really think it's necessary to ask this question because we just finished up an awesome series. When you're asked to join the Methodist Church, you're asked to support it with, a number of things, right? The 5 things are prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness. And I thought maybe today we should really kind of take stock where we are. We should ask, how is it with our soul in relation to these things? Where are we kind of spiritually? And in praying, ask God, where are some verses? How do we know this? How can we gauge where we are? Because it's kind of a hard thing to ask. Like, God, how are you and I doing? So that's when he revealed this verse to me. It says, a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. A tree is identified by its fruit. Figs are never gathered from thorn bushes, and grapes are not picked from bramble bushes. A good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say flows from what's in your heart. Now, if you take that, just that first part of that verse, right? I think what we can honestly say is it's just our passions. Like what we do, right? The things that we go after, the things that naturally come out of us. The things we get excited about, the things that we prioritize, right? All the things that just naturally come out of us, that's where we are with God. And taking a little bit deeper look in that, I think one of the things that we really, I think there are really 3 measures that we can look at. One is money. So I like props. I like bring things so people get, I'm a visual learner. Hopefully that helps you as well. So money. Number 1, where do you spend your money? Now, the things that you spend your money on are probably the things you're most passionate about, unless they're bills. But you prioritize those things, right? You prioritize because you want to pay your bills. It's important. But in the context of the church, the first thing we have to look at is, are you tithing? That's the basic, right? That is the requirement. It is the 10th. Because the way you handle money shows how much you trust God. I know it can be inconvenient. I personally have been in the place where I tithed at the end, right? And then you get there and there's nothing. Like growing up, and my parents always told me, take it out of the beginning, and it was very smart. It was absolutely what I needed to do. But the thing is, 1 Timothy 6:10 says, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and have pierced themselves with many griefs. Because the thing is, our relationship to money, like I said, is how we trust God. If we trust God, if we see things as His, it's no problem hanging over, right? Because it wasn't ours to begin with. But if we see it as ours and things we prioritize and things we want to do things with, we're a lot less kind of willing to let that go. And the thing is, it's not just tithes, though. It's giving, right? In addition to that, because we ask for tithes and offerings. You guys ever notice that? There's two things we ask for, tithes and offerings. So the offering is what comes after the tithe. It's the extra. It's what comes after that. Offerings are a bonus. And the thing is, if our hearts are naturally inclined to tithe, they'll probably be even more naturally inclined to give to those in need. People may be going on a trip, or maybe some things need to be done around the church, or things need to be handled. We're more likely to give when we don't see it as ours. Now, your tithe and the additional offerings, they support ministries within the church. That's part of what we were supporting our church with, is the tithe, specifically on the money side. It keeps the doors open. It's the way that works. Like, we need money to pay light bills. We need money to run things here. And that's why, we are asked to support the church with that. Now, the second thing, the second kind of barometer of passion, I would say, and the barometer of the things that are important to us is our time, right? Because we prioritize the things we're most passionate about and the things that mean the most to us. We do. Absolutely. Right? Because we all have schedules. There's that old adage, if you really want to know what's important to somebody, you look in their planner. I don't have a planner. I write things down and I try to keep track of stuff. But I think what happens more often than not is we run into things that aren't necessarily bad. Like family dinners, not bad. Not bad at all. I love family dinners. I grew up doing family dinner, got to connect to my family. It was great. Great time. Extracurricular activities, clubs, right? I have tons of youth that are involved in stuff. They go on trips. There's travel ball, all kinds of stuff, sports, right? Sleeping, awesome. Your body needs it. It's a great thing. Naps are awesome. Even taking time to just chill out and recharge. Also great for you. Not bad things. But what we face now more than anything, though, is, I think, not choosing between bad and good, but better and best. Good and best. Like prioritizing. Because what we have to ask is, are these things keeping us from church? Are they keeping us from supporting the church? Are they keeping us from coming to church? In the morning, I've been there. You don't feel like going to church. I've been there. You're tired. You accidentally stayed up too late. I've been there. Is it keeping you from volunteering or serving and helping people with your gifts? Is it keeping you from attending fellowship events and growing to know the church better? Are those things keeping you from helping others that you come across because you're too busy? And that's one of the things that God has convicted me before. I'm in a hurry and I see somebody who needs help. A long time ago, I was on my way to church and I saw this guy and he needed help, and it would have been nothing to stop and help him. I was like, I'm on my way to church. I was like, what? That didn't make any sense. So, see, your perspective and passion on how to spend time is in accordance with God's desires can really only come from having a close relationship with Him, a daily relationship with Him. He starts to give you His vision for things, His priority for things, His priority on how to spend time. Now, I think the third barometer, or the third way we can measure what our passions are, what's really important to us, the things that naturally come out of us is our speech, the way we talk. Not only the things we talk about, but the way we talk. Because we naturally talk about things that are important to us, right? Think about the last thing that you liked, right? It could be a funny video, it could be a movie, it could be a song, it could be maybe a great poem you've heard or read, or just anything really. You posted it to Facebook, or you told somebody about it in person, or you used some sort of other form of social media, Snapchat, Instagram, whatever. Why'd you share it? Why'd you tell somebody else about it? Because it was important to you. It made an impact on you, right? You wanted to share it, because that's what we naturally do with the things that we care about. Just like this verse is saying, it naturally comes out of us. Like verse 45 says, what you say flows from what's in your heart. And speaking of that, how we speak to others also says a lot about who we are. There was this Dothan First Assembly sign. You guys know Dothan First Assembly. If you've ever driven in, it's like right there on that main strip as you go in. They had this great sign one day, and I couldn't get it out of my head. And it says, what you say about others says a lot about you. I was like, man, some kind of hit me where I lived, right? Based again on that verse, the things that naturally come out of us, the way we talk to people, the words we use. Have you ever heard these phrases? No offense, just kidding, and it wasn't me, or that wasn't me. You've heard those phrases, right? You've heard them used. Maybe you used them, I don't know. But the thing is, what do they all have in common? They usually follow, or they precede, kind of mean things. But the thing is, the reason we say them is because we still want to be seen as nice, kind, compassionate people, right? Even though I would think based on this verse, we're not so much. Because it still hurts. When somebody says just kidding, it doesn't negate the fact that you just said those words. Or that you just felt those words, right? Because those will come back up later. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I love games. I absolutely love them. The thing I'm very passionate about, we have tons of board games. We play them all the time, play them in youth, have lots of fun. But the thing is, if you've ever noticed about the way I play games, I want to let you in on a little insight into me. The reason I play is not to win. The words I use when I play they're encouraging, because I love seeing other people win. I love seeing people lifted up, people encouraged. Right? I like the community. That's what I like. That's why I play games. It brings people together. You get to have fun. In Ephesians 4, 1 through 3, it says, I therefore, a prisoner of the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and bond of peace. Now, I haven't always been that way. That's one of those things God convicted me of. Now, there's another thing that happens about this time of year that people are super passionate about. I may step on some toes here in a second. It's football, right? Yeah, it's getting about that time. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong before I get into this with being competitive. There's nothing wrong with being excited. There's nothing wrong with being passionate. But it's a really fine line to walk as Christians. Because James 1, 2 through 6, 26, sorry, I have that written down, says, if you claim to be religious but don't control your tongue, you are fooling yourself. Your religion is worthless. I don't know if you ever thought about this, but I see stuff all the time online with openly antagonistic things regarding football. You know, and I get people being passionate, and I get that stuff, but did you know, have you thought about the way you pull for your team is also part of your witness? Those people looking in, it's part of your witness. If you claim to be a Christian, the way you speak to people, right? Especially if they aren't Christians. Does the way you post things online look different? Does the way you speak to other people look different? I'm sorry. No. See, the things you speak about the most, really the most important to you. And the way in which you speak them says a lot about where you are with God and where you are in your journey. And I've been there. And I know it's hard. I'm second generation Auburn. I don't talk about it a lot for that very reason, because I don't want to cause disunity. I don't want to rub people the wrong way. I don't want to cause strife. But I'm just excited everybody else when the games come on. We get in our house and people are yelling and screaming. It's fun. It's a great time. But with all this kind of analysis, with talking about the money and the time and the speech and the way we prioritize things and the things that naturally flow out of us, what do we do with that? How does that help us grow in our spiritual life? How does that help us grow as people committed to helping the church with our prayers, presence, gifts, service, and witness? How does that help? And in the second part of this verse, 47 through 48, Christ himself kind of lays it out for us. He says, I will show you what it's like when someone comes to me, listens to my teaching, and then follows it. It's like a person building a house who digs deep and lays the foundation on solid rock. When the floodwaters rise and break against the house, it stands firm because it was well built. Isn't that first verse? Listen again. If someone comes to me, listens to my teaching, and then follows it. Now, it sounds simple. It's pretty hard. So, number one would then be approach or seek out God. Think back to the children's moment, right? She said there's the 168 hours, right, in your week, essentially. Did anybody resonate with anybody? Like, how many hours how much time do I actually spend thinking about God, involving him in the things I do? When they got to the end and they had run out everything, it was like $12 left. It's not a lot. God's there waiting for us. And the failure's not on his end. He's doing everything he can to reach out to us. Revelation 3:20 says, Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come into him and eat with him and he with me. He sent his son to pay the price for us so we could have that relationship again. Because I think sometimes people are like, well, what if I don't find him? What if I seek him? And it's too complicated. The Bible is very confusing. He's waiting. He wants to make himself known to you. See, if we don't chase after him on a daily basis, if we don't read the Bible, if we're not talking to others, if we're not chasing after him intentionally with our time, if we don't schedule it in, we can't know him. Because we don't spend time with him. You can't know someone you don't spend time with. You can't know what they like. You can't have a friendship with that person. You can't know their likes and dislikes. We won't become passionate about what he wants for our lives, and we won't become passionate about the church. So that was number one, seek God. Number two is listen to God. How many of you consider yourselves good listeners? Okay, this is not a trick question. You can be honest in your answer. Right? See, listening to God is such a crucial step in this process. Because we live in a culture that's so obsessed with focusing on our own thoughts. It's hard, right? Because honestly, what we feel is a lot of times truth, right? It's the absolute. People are unwilling to listen to others. There's not much rational thought sometimes that goes into feelings. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And trying to analyze that stuff. Just think about the last conversation you had, okay? When the person was talking, were you A, really listening, trying to take it in, meet them where they were, trying to have empathy, trying to understand what they were saying, or were you thinking about what you were going to say when they got done talking? I know. I've been there. I understand, yeah. Because it's hard to listen sometimes because we get wrapped up in our own stuff. Now, see, when we don't listen to God and what he has to say, we can't know what truth actually is. We lose hold of that. In a world that's floundering for something, that's for hope, it's contained in Christ. But we have to listen to take that in and internalize it. And then the third step is follow his instructions. So seek him out, listen to him, actually take in what he's saying, and then follow his instructions. And the thing is, he asks us to turn all of ourselves over, right? All of it, because we get super quick to try to justify things when they get hard. When we run into a brick wall, right? It's easy to kind of turn tail sometimes, or try to justify, or try to cut corners. And be like, well, I know you said this, God. Or like, maybe you didn't say this, I don't know. Maybe you didn't tell me to go talk to that person who was way out of my comfort zone. Maybe you didn't ask me to volunteer at the church in this ministry. I have no idea what I'm doing. Maybe you didn't ask me to do that. And it's easier to think that sometimes than actually go and do it. Step it on a limb. Take faith. James 1:22 through 25 says, but don't just listen to God's word. You must do what it says. Otherwise, you're only fooling yourselves. For if you listen to the word and don't obey, it's like glancing at your face in a mirror. You see yourself, walk away, and forget what you look like. But if you look carefully into the perfect law that sets you free, and if you do what it says and don't forget what you heard, then God will bless you for doing it. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. That sounds pretty good to me. Sometimes we have to step out on faith. Sometimes we don't understand what God's doing. But if we just live into it, blessings follow. So a lot of times when we try to stay where we are, nothing changes. It doesn't get better. Sometimes it gets worse. But the awesome part about all this, and I don't mean to sound down or dour, but the awesome part is some of this stuff kind of hit, and I wrestled with this message for a while. The awesome part is it's not over. It's not done. When it says the things that pour out of you are the things that you are, God doesn't want to leave you that way. As long as you draw breath, there's hope. There's time to change. And he wants to give you more than you could ever imagine. It may not be what you expected, but you just got to seek him out. You got to listen, and you have to actually follow through. You have to go out on faith and trust him with all the things in your life, with your money, with your time. Trust that he knows what he's doing. Trust that he knows what he's doing when he asks you to speak certain ways. When he asks you to, tame your tongue. It's a hard thing to do. Because the thing is, he wants to make you new creations. He wants to change what comes out of you. It's a journey. It's a process. But 2 Corinthians 5, 16 through 17 says, "So from now on we regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, they are a new creation. The new creation has come and the old has gone. The new is here." That's awesome. He wants to change all that stuff. He doesn't want to leave you as you are. So on a positive note, I want to ask at the end of this sermon, this end of this message, how is it with your soul? Do you want change? Do you want to grow? You want hope? Do you feel like you kind of lost it? Just gotta seek him, man. You gotta seek him. He wants to talk to you. Just gotta listen and then follow through. Trust him. It's a hard commodity now. But he knows what he's doing. He's never surprised, and he loves you more than you could ever imagine. Thank you. Let's get the praise singing. See if you guys want.